Calling the August 13th Harbor Commission meeting session. May we have a roll call?
We are going to do verbal roll call today. Chair Beer. Secretary Scully.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Present.
Commissioner Williams.
I am here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
And both Vice Chair Marston and Commissioner Smirchek have an excused absence tonight.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance is next, and I'll ask Commissioner Young if you would mind leading the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Next item is public comments, and public comments are invited on non-agenda items. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, we invite but do not require you to state your name for the record. The Harbor Commission has the discretion to extend or shorten the speaker's time limit on non-agenda items, provided the time limit adjustment is applied equally to all speakers. As a courtesy, at this time, we request that you turn your cell phones off or set them in silent mode. Essentially, we've seen, actually, I'm sorry, go ahead. Just bring that up now. Any public comments? Seeing none, we will move to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes. We have draft minutes of the July 9th Harbor Commission regular meeting, and I will bring it to the commissioners if there's any additional comments beyond those submitted. Secretary Scully?
Yeah, Chair Beer, I missed one item in my comments, and it's on the election of officers. And it's the item where you nominated me for secretary. I didn't second it. It's showing me as seconding it, and I can't remember who seconded it. I thought it was Vice Chair Marston, I can't remember.
It's difficult to tell in the voice,
Right.
but I'm not sure if it was possible. Commissioner
I
Williams.
believe I seconded that.
Okay.
Oh, you seconded it, okay. Okay.
I wasn't sure if it was me.
So I'd like to update the minutes to reflect that Commissioner Williams seconded my nomination as secretary. And that's all my additional comments, plus the ones I provided for this package.
Okay. Commissioner Young, anything to add?
I do not.
Commissioner Williams, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Commissioner Miller?
No, sir.
Okay. I would like to open this to public comments with respect to the minutes of July 9th.
Adam Leverins and loud, like Commissioners Scully and Beer, I submitted written corrections to the minutes, and I just wanted to make clear, I mean, we're making these corrections. I imagine not everybody reads through them all. When I spoke at the last meeting about the Coastal Commission talking about the experts in the room, they were talking about mooring permittees and their knowledge being available to the city, and they encouraged the city to listen to the mooring permittees in the future. And then near the end of the minutes, when I talked about the Harbor Department wrongful impounds and cut locks with unjust cause, it says I was alleging those things. Those things are not alleged, they're factual, as well as the claims I made that people have told me they're afraid of retaliation to talk. Those again are not claims, they are factual. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Chair Beer, members of the Harbor Commission. My name is Jim Mosher. I have not looked at all of the minutes. I accidentally kind of looked at one page, and I think if Vice Chair Marston was here, she might have noticed that on page 15 of the minutes, which is page 21 of your agenda packet, there's a long paragraph about 6 lines down from the top. The name of Deputy Harbor Master Cozy Lion is misspelled. It's Cozy Lynn here instead of Cozy Lion. The O in the lion is missing. So you might want to correct that. And then I suppose it's a non-agenda comment. I do see that you actually have an agenda packet with sequential numbers. It would be helpful to the public if there was a downloadable form of that, which there used to be in the past, has not been tonight. So the public accesses this in many, many little pieces.
Thank you. Any additional public comments to the July 9th minutes? Seeing none, bring it back here for a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes and the submissions by myself, by Chair Bear, and the additional comment on the nomination, and that it's exempt from secret.
Can I just add that we correct the spelling for Mr. Cozyline? Do I have a second?
I can second that.
Okay. Motion and second, vote.
Commissioner Miller? We're just going to do verbal voting.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We're going to do verbal
Okay.
voting today.
I'll second that.
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Abstain.
Secretary Scully?
Yes.
And Chair Bear?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, next item, which we have as item 6.1, is a variance request. It's for a dock reconfiguration at 2100 and 2102 East Balboa Boulevard. And variance for dock configuration, the applicant is requesting a variance to construct a new double U-shaped dock on a single lot, resulting from a contemplated lot merger of two adjacent properties. The Newport Beach Municipal Code allows only a single dock and slip for each single lot. Because two U-shaped slips are not allowed, the applicant is requesting a variance to allow two slips to be installed on a single merged lot. And I think we have a staff report from Mr. Miller.
We do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the introduction. You are correct. This evening we're talking about a variance, but before we get started, I'd like to draw your attention to a memo that's on the dais, as well as on the front counter for members of the public, that explains an error that was caught late this afternoon. And there's a memo to the Harbor Commission that explains what that error was. I'll go into it in detail, but it's essentially a square footage error, square footage calculation error. And it is still, the proposed dock is still less than the existing square footage. So the analysis remains the same. And the attachments on that memo are where I made the corrections on the documents where I made those corrections. And I will go into that in detail during my presentation. Okay, so we'll get started. The property at 2100 and 2102 is requesting a variance to have a double U-shaped slip, or rather two slips in front of their property. The properties are located towards the end of the entrance channel, right where the entrance channel bends, or where there is a corner that goes out to the entrance channel, and it's eastward and well beyond the A mooring field. It's an unusual property. It's an unusual property because, or both properties are unusual because they are not rectangular like most properties are in the city. The side property lines are just unusual. And there is more frontage along the harbor frontage than there is upon the street frontage. So it forms, the property, the side property lines fan out to an extent. In a separate request, the city did approve a lot merger for 2100 and 2102, these two lots. They did approve a lot merger for those two lots. However, there's a nuance with this property, and I'll zoom in a bit more. I didn't draw it in on this exhibit, but where the green grass is, 30 feet from the bulkhead line landward. So, yeah, so just 30 feet. There's a swath of area there that is within the Coastal Commission's original permit jurisdiction. As odd as that sounds, usually the Coastal Commission's permit jurisdiction is in the water, but in some cases in the harbor it does extend into the land. And so technically, the Coastal Commission has to approve the lot merger for that very small sliver, that 30 feet that encompasses both of those properties. So again, the city has already approved the lot merger for a majority of the two properties. The smaller portion of the property is currently under review with the Coastal Commission. The property is located between bulkhead stations 108 and 109. And between those two bulkhead stations, as our municipal code states, you are allowed to build your pier out to your pier float out to the pier head line. You are allowed to build beyond that, but with Harbor Commission approval. The applicant is not asking to go beyond the pier. And just as a refresher, our harbor does include federal harbor lines throughout. They are the bulkhead line. Bulkhead line is the orange line on the screen. It follows the grassy area. It generally follows the bulkhead along the physical bulkhead along the harbor. The pier head is the yellow line, which is anywhere from 80 feet, depending on where you're at in the harbor, out from the bulkhead line. And that generally depicts the area that piers can be built out to, but not always. And then lastly is the red project line. This is a bit unusual in this location. The red project line is 20 feet, that's not unusual, 20 feet beyond the pier head line. But what is unusual is that this property is immediately adjacent to the main navigation channel. I will zoom back out. The main navigation channel is highlighted by the blue dashed lines. Zooming back in, you'll see that right about midway through the property at 2100, where the red project line bends right or towards the entrance channel, it becomes congruent with the main navigation channel. And there is a reason why I'm bringing that up. I will go into that a bit later, but that project line and the main navigation channel are congruent with each other, and they are 20 feet beyond the pier head. The existing conditions are on the screen, and they are two separate dock systems for two separate properties. The applicant is requesting to combine both of those into a single property, a single dock system, and the variance is to maintain, although in slightly different configuration, maintain the existing double U-shaped floats in front of 2100. I think I can make I was going to get a highlight so So the applicant wishes to maintain those two double U-shaped slips and then combine it with the slip at the adjacent 2102 property. Interestingly, the current configuration has already or had been approved by various bodies back in the early 70s. And I'll just quickly go through those. In June of 74, the county's Harbor, Beaches, and Parks Commission recommended that the city council approve it. They didn't approve it themselves. They recommended that it be approved. And that's when the county had a role in the approval, in the review process. And then in June, later that same month in 1974, the city council, this is the staff report, we don't need to read it, but the city council did approve the configuration, and they had a condition on it that had to do with tying up boats, basically so that it wouldn't encroach upon the neighbor's property. This is a configuration that that was submitted to those agencies, including the City Council and the California Coastal Commission and the Army Corps of Engineers. So this is just showing the historic files for the purpose of this meeting. This is the back side of the permit, and down at the bottom, the special condition, it said no side tie on the easterly side of any vessel of 7 feet 8 from the line. These are just minutes from the City Council meeting, just for reference, in 1974. This is from the Coastal Zone Conservation Commission. Previously, that was their previous name. They are known now, of course, as the California Coastal Commission. In September, they approved it. This was their resolution, just for reference. And then lastly, in October, the Army Corps of Engineers approved it. My point in bringing these to your attention is that the existing configuration was approved at that time. Interestingly, the way that our municipal code is stated today, where it does not allow more than 1 slip per residence, it said the same thing in the early 70s. And in fact, it said it in the early 60s, and I believe in the 50s as well. So that rule has been around for a long time. But the applicant was able to seek and get approval for that back in 1974. Now we go to the proposed configuration. This is just the cover sheet. This is an overlay of the proposed. Now the pink dashed is the existing, and the dark part of it is what is proposed. So the existing pink dashed area is 2,545 square feet. The proposed overwater square footage without the stationary pier. Now, you can see in front of the right-hand property, you see that the larger pier platform, that will remain. That is not being replaced. So the overall square footage without that is 1,818 square feet. But more relevant, the total proposed square footage, including that fixed stationary pier platform that is not being replaced, is 2,455 square feet. And that's the calculation that we discovered this afternoon. This kind of breaks it down so it's not an overlay. This shows the existing configuration where there's 2 approved U-shaped slips in front of the left property, 2100, and a single side tie in front of 2102. And then this shows the simplified version of what the applicant is requesting. They are requesting a variance. To be clear, the applicant is requesting a variance not from the Harbor Commission to combine the dock system, but to have a 2 U-shaped slips. Another condition, which is not part of the Harbor Commission's decision, but it's part of my evaluation, which I'm proposing to go into the special conditions, which are attached to the staff report, is a beam restriction on the side tie, nowhere else except for just the side tie in front of the property at 2102 on the right. And the reason for that is because, as we saw in the aerials a few minutes ago, the project line is congruent with the main navigation channel. And I created that on this exhibit right here on the screen to show that the blue line is that project line / main navigation channel. And if you take the distance from the edge of the side tie to the pierhead line, which is 7 feet, as seen, right? It is hard to see, especially on the screen, but there is a dimension on the left larger vessel that is side tied to the dock. There's a dimension noted right there that says 7 feet. And then the dimension from the pier head line to the project line or the main navigation channel is 20 feet. So my special condition is that the applicant cannot permanently berth a vessel that with a beam that is greater than 27 feet. So we can keep that, we can keep free and clear, especially, or keep free and clear of the main navigation channel. And I'd be happy to go back to the aerials if you'd like to study that a bit more later. My analysis of this request is that there has been an approved configuration for 2 U-shaped slips. There was no evidence in my files of any complaints that would constitute a hazard to the public convenience, health, interest, safety, or general welfare of anyone in the city. And as of this afternoon, I have not received any complaints either or from anyone, including the public, of course. The main navigation channel, as I mentioned, is there's a condition on these special conditions. In Municipal Code Section 17.05.140, it talks about, it directs staff in the Harbor Commission on how they can go about making a decision for a variance. And remember, this was part of our giant effort that Commissioner Scully helped to work on with when we looked at the Title 17 and the then Council Policy H1. And this is a direct result of that, where we talked about how we can help with the variance procedure. And so it lists in our municipal code, there are 6 or 7 different findings that the Harbor Commission must make. And those are listed in great detail in the resolution, which I'd be happy to talk about, but I'm not intending to go over it in detail now. Summary is that staff does support the request for the variance. The existing 2-shaped slip configuration was previously approved and has been in existence for 50 years. The proposed project is very similar to the project that it replaced, to the dock and float that it replaces. And the project does comply with the harbor design criteria. And granting the variance will not negatively impact the surrounding community. The applicant was granted approval for the lot merger, and they're currently seeking approval from the Coastal Commission. So here's some detail that I will try to explain. The applicant, of course, hopes that and desires that the Coastal Commission approves this lot merger for that small slip of property. But in the event, in the unlikely, hopefully unlikely event that the Coastal Commission does not approve that, the applicant could still return to the city and wouldn't apply for a joint dock, but they could still apply for a double U-shaped slip, which is the same topic we're talking about right now. Technically, they would have to reapply, so kind of starting the process over, but it'd be essentially a repeat, assuming that whichever direction the commission chooses to go this evening. But that's how that would play out if the Coastal Commission does not grant that merger for that small slip.
Hey Chris, just to be clear on that, so if the Coastal Commission does not grant the merger of the lots, the applicant cannot move forward with if a variance is granted here tonight with a single system, and if they decided to do anything, they would have to come back, start all over, new submission that would come to the same place, to have a double U-shaped dock put into the westerly property there, and that application will probably look pretty similar to what we're looking at right now, I guess.
I would imagine so under that.
So that's okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
So the resolution includes facts and supports of findings. And I'm happy to go through those, but those are all in the resolution. I wasn't intending on going through those one by one. If the Harbor Commission would like to add to those or subtract to those, they're more than welcome, but they would need to provide facts to support their new findings or to augment the findings in any way. Depending on the severity, not severity, but the detail of any additions or subtractions to that, then staff would likely have to return with an updated resolution at the September meeting. But if you just have minor changes, and one of those minor changes would be the square footage that we talked about that's considered minor, then the resolution could be approved this evening as stated with that exception. And whoever makes the motion would have to state that in their motion. These are the special conditions. This is condition number 10 is the condition that talks about the 27-foot limit. The rest of the conditions are all standard conditions, notably 8 and 9, basically say how far you can go out with your vessel channelward and that you cannot encroach upon your neighbor's property, very standard. And then lastly, as I do for all of our public hearings, this is the notice that was sent out to all of those people in yellow, and it was advertised in the newspaper on July 26th, and the property was noticed as well. And as I said, as of this evening, this afternoon, I have not received any comments from them. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions. The applicant is present, and I'm sure would like to say a few words. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Would the applicant like to speak at this time?
Good evening, Chair Beer, members of the Commission. I'm Shauna Schaffner, Chief Executive Officer of CA Planning, and I represent the property owner in this variance request. I think while this is a little bit confusing given the W-shaped configuration and the changes that we're requesting, I think Mr. Miller's done a great job of highlighting why we have requested the variance tonight. I don't have a distinct proposal or presentation for you, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. We have reviewed the staff report and the conditions of approval, and we are in full support of all of those conditions, including special condition 10, which would limit how far out a boat could be berthed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll bring it back here and see if any commissioners have questions for Shauna or Mr. Miller. Commissioner Scott.
I have a couple of questions. So the Coastal Commission design approval is it only for the reverse lot split? I can't remember. Lot merger, I mean, getting rid of the lot line and making it one piece of property. They because of that, they don't have any say over the slips?
No, the Coastal Commission doesn't opine on, I shouldn't say that. I will state it carefully. They do opine on slips and the makeup and the square footage of slips, but on the configuration, they leave that to the local authority, the city, and our rules dictating if we allow a U-shaped, an L-shaped side tie, as long as it complies with boundaries, property line.
Okay. And I assume they're gonna look to build on one piece of the property. Is that fair guess on my part?
Yes, that's correct.
And go ahead.
The city's recent approval on the lot merger included both merging the two lots and construction of a new residence with an accessory dwelling unit.
Okay, and if the Coastal Commission does not approve it, will the construction go forward?
If the Coastal Commission does not approve the lot merger, then we would have to huddle back up, get with the city, and figure out how we could pursue a different application. But the application that we've already submitted to the city, to the Coastal Commission, would not go forward without coastal approval.
Okay. And Chris, you mentioned that the variance that's being looked for and our, what we're going to vote on tonight is basically the two U-shaped slips. It's not the whole structure.
That's correct. That is the
Even though
variance.
it's just one piece, I mean, it's all one unit. I mean, it's all connected.
You're right. The structure itself complies with the harbor design criteria. Generally, when houses are merged, who have docks, this is typical.
Right,
Where
no, I
they
get it.
do that. And so, absent of the two U-shaped slips, the dock complies with the harbor design criteria. So let me put it to you this way: if the applicant had proposed one U-shaped slip and it looked almost identical to what we have before us, the Harbor Commission wouldn't need to consider it. But it's because of the two U-shaped slips, that's the specific variance that they're requesting to see.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that when we do vote and do come up with a motion that everything's correct as it relates to this, but okay. And then my final question, Chris, when we're looking at docks near this property, more relevant being going towards the harbor entrance, do we have many boats with end ties or even U-shaped slips that are allowed to go all the way to the project line? We're allowing 27-foot beam restriction here, so we're going all the way to the project line, and which is the harbor main channel. Do we have other homeowners that have similar similar restrictions or similar capabilities, or is there a buffer to the main channel boat?
That's a good question. Not all the homeowners have come before the city or the Harbor Commission in recent decades to reconfigure their pier or dock. So those who haven't come before us for whatever reason don't have special conditions associated with their property, or they might, and they might. I don't know about every single property. What I do know is that there are one or two houses that do have docks. There's one house that does have a rather large vessel adjacent to the M Street Public Pier.
Right.
And I haven't analyzed that. I don't know how far it goes out in relation to their side tie. I wouldn't be able, and this aerial does not show that, so I just can't guess. But it's a single hull vessel. I don't think it's, well, I shouldn't opine on that because I haven't studied it. But I guess the reason for the side tie is not because the applicant is requesting to put a vessel.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. We're just providing, we're setting a precedent. We're providing the ability to go all the way out there. That's all I'm looking at here. I mean, that's a busy part of the channel, very busy. And this is for the applicant. I mean, it's going to be a stupid question. I probably already know the answer, but is there going to be any intent to red slips here? It's a lot of slips.
No, definitely not.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Secretary Scully. I do want to mention one thing. I had a similar concern, but I guess in any event on that side tie, which is approximately 70 foot long, the maximum vessel that you could put there would be the length of that dock plus its beam. So any vessel of that sort, other than a catamaran, would never have a beam more than 20 feet. So
You get 25.
if it was a catamaran.
No, I mean on a 70-foot boat you could, or for bigger.
Yeah.
I mean it's going to stick out too.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Okay, just wanted to reference that. Commissioner Williams, any comments or questions?
No comments or questions.
Commissioner Miller?
Quick question for you, Chris. If, when I look at the reconfiguration of docks, and I've read past applicant changes, the shadowing seems to come up because it affects the eelgrass. I would look at this as a great positive. The footprint is reduced, and therefore the bay is going to get healthier, there's more grass. Does the juxtaposition of the dock have any bearing on that, whether it's east, west, north, or south? The sun kind of comes over the back of that. I don't think it matters, but is that ever taken into consideration? No, either for this or going forward?
It's not taken into consideration by the city in our review process, but the applicant is required to do an eelgrass survey before construction and after construction to make sure that there is not a net loss. And they also negotiate, if there is eelgrass, which there is some eelgrass in the property, they would negotiate the terms for that eelgrass well before the application, during the review process. So typically during the Coastal Commission and the Army Corps review process, they would consult other resource agencies. As to your question on the direction of the sun and the floats, yes, you could make an argument about that, the shading of the houses and where your float is, precisely, but I don't think the agencies go to that level of detail. They do go to detail, but they don't look at it from that perspective of orientation.
Yeah, at a high level, it just seems like this is positive for the bay, right? More light, more grass, more healing. So
that's right.
Thank you for your clarification.
Thank you. Commissioner Yan, any questions or comments?
You had brought up a historical restriction about the beam of a vessel that was 7 feet back a while ago when this was approved. I forget what year it was, many years ago. What part of this dock was that beam restriction?
I believe it was on the, so on the screen is the current configuration, and I really can't see it, but I think it was on the west side of the west finger of the U-shaped float. Basically, it was a side property line. Our general rule is you can't extend beyond the prolongation of the property line, and they attempted to spell it out. I just can't read it on the screen.
And that's kind of my question. What's the distance between the property line and that edge? It's very short, very small.
I just can't see it on the screen.
And is the owner owns the property west of this as well?
I believe so.
So this is a third parcel, and they actually have a slip configuration in front of that slot that looks somewhat connected to this whole slip configuration that looks to be detached when it's reconstructed.
Yes, it's not going to.
Okay. So I was just wondering about the beam restrictions. Again, if it's the same owner, then you can't even fit a slip in there right now. It's pretty close, but once they move the new slip over there, there'd be room for another vessel, but there wouldn't need to be a restriction for the promulgation to cross over the promulgated line. Is that right?
Technically, you're not supposed to cross over a property line.
Right.
If you own both properties, then that's up to you to decide if you'd like to cross over.
Right.
But technically, you're not allowed to.
I get it. So I just wanted to kind of put it out there. I don't think it's our business to opine there, but it is interesting how that's coming together that way. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you, Commissioner Yan. I've had the luxury to discuss this, I guess, with Mr. Miller previously, so I don't have any additional questions. I'll open it up unless you want to bring one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I should have brought it up when I did. I just would like Harbor Master Blank, do you foresee issues with the 27-foot beam restriction and going right up into the project line, which is the line of the main channel? I mean, any issues as it relates to impeding traffic and providing space in the harbor for posting it to ingress and egress?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll like your harbor master. I have no concerns, and I don't foresee any issues associated with this. There's plenty of water for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to open this up for public comments at this time.
Adam Levens again. I appreciate the insightful questions from the commission as well as Mr. Miller's beam restriction to try and protect the navigation channel. I also commend the applicants. Most of the dock rebuild things I've seen, they go to coastal because there's not this sort of property thing going on. But a lot of people, I recently saw one on Balboa Island near the ferry where there's a dog leg on the island, and they went 16 feet beyond the pier head line. And as I understand it, the pier head line is a federally designated line, which things are not supposed to protrude beyond. And there's various places in the harbor where the city has granted exceptions to that with the project line. And as far as Commissioner Miller, what I have seen in coastal, they mainly look at a reduction of square footage as a plus. So this has a plus for coastal with that, and plus the fact that rather than trying to go out further, they're actually pulling back a little bit. So as far as I have seen in my couple of years of study, this looks real good here in coastal. Thank you.
Any additional public comments?
Chair Buer, members of the commission, my name again is Jim Mosher. I also noticed in the aerial photos that this seemed to be connected to the lot to the west, and yet that's not shown here as part of the existing. So if it is there, I don't know why it's not shown as part of the existing dock. And although you're not supposed to be apparently debating the actual configuration, in addition to the problem with the side tie and how wide the boat could be there, I noticed that the western U of the two U's is substantially wider than the existing one. There's a figure here that says that it's nearly 34 feet wide. So I don't know too much about boat configurations, but a very wide boat could go into that. And if you have the rule that it can extend by its beam beyond the end of the fingers, isn't there a problem with that too, possibly protruding out to or beyond the navigation channel? And in addition, in the other cases, it was clear which finger you measure from, and you have two here that are different lengths. So is it clear which one it is measured from? And then the other comment I have, I also noticed that there are a large number of boats there, and the reason we have this rule is you're consolidating. In theory, you have two single-family lots here, and docks will accommodate a single family on each lot, and they're being consolidated into one still single-family lot. Whether there is an ADU connected with it, whether it will actually be used for a second unconnected person or not, I don't know. But you're reducing the intensity of development in theory, fewer people on land, and this is over public tideland. Shouldn't we be expecting some reduction in the amount here? And it seems like an awful lot of boats for a single family. And while the current owner proposing this may not be planning to use it as a little commercial marina, I'm not sure that what the variance you grant would apply to some future owner who might have that in mind. Don't know. It's over public tideland, so I'm not sure that they grant or establishes a vested interest in this, or it could be modified in the future. But if you're making a variance that's going to last for all time, you might be concerned about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comments? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the dais if anybody has an additional comment or question they'd like to ask at this time. Seeing none, I have just one clarification question I'd like to ask Mr. Miller. So in the recommendation for the adopting of the resolution, and based on your discussion, it doesn't look like there's any reference to our approval here, should it be granted or variance granted, to the special conditions. And I'm assuming that's because we're just looking at the double U shape and the special conditions really don't apply. So that'd be the first part of you shaking your head, seeming to agree. But I would like to ask, because to me it appears, as Secretary Scully mentioned, that it's the double U shape, but it all has one dock. Would it be acceptable if, during approving a resolution, that we also wanted to have that include those special conditions? Or is that something that would be outside the purview of this commission?
I don't think so. I think that's reasonable. And I think if the motion is to ultimately approve this, then I would think that part of the motion would be to include the special conditions as an attachment to the resolution. Very easily said and done. And while I'm speaking on the presumption of approval, if that's the direction the Harbor Commission wants to go, whoever does make the motion, I would ask that they verbally clarify the difference in the square footage. So
On the fixed deck,
very
yeah.
clear on that slight difference.
Thank you. So I'll go ahead
I have a question.
and ask
I can
Secretary
just do-
Scully if he has a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just thinking about Mr. Mosier's comment. Chris, on the double U shape, how far from the end of the dock till we get to the project line?
On the screen, so you can see that, interestingly, the project line, which is the red line, on the left side of your screen, it turns into blue right at the top of that second finger, more or less. So the distance on the far left of your screen, there's a dimension that says 20 feet from the pierhead line, which is the tip of the leftmost finger, up to the project. Now, the dimension that I do not have is the triangle distance from the red project line to the blue navigation channel. That would be very hard for me to. I'm not very good at geometry.
Okay, I mean,
You follow what I'm saying?
I think so. But the boat will be able to extend past the tip of the finger, the tip of the left finger, the width of the beam,
That's correct.
okay?
And you'll notice that nub, I'll call it a nub, at the base of the larger slip on the left, that would imply, although I don't want to say for sure, but just by that being there would imply that two vessels would likely be in that larger slip.
I don't disagree. I'm just like, when we're gonna prove this, I just want to know, are we gonna get over that project line? Potentially, because this is gonna be in perpetuity. Are we gonna get over that project line? Is number one, is that okay? We're gonna stay out of the main channel. I don't think we're gonna get there, but we're gonna get over the project line, most likely. I mean, if you put in a maximum size vessel into that slip. Now, I don't
Yes.
think we're gonna get a 35-foot beam boat. We're not gonna get a 250 footer in there, but
Sure.
um,
There are many examples of vessels, and even a few of docks going over the project
Okay.
as allowed by the municipal. The project line is really just a line that the federal government uses as a line to which they're responsible for dredging. So in the event, and I'm sure we'll encounter this coming up here with the Lower Bay dredging project, in the event that there is a vessel that does extend beyond the project line, I will know that. And a week ahead of the dredge being in front of that person's property, I will call that property owner and ask him if he would please move his vessel because it only helps him to have temporary entrance into this.
but I do agree keeping them out of the main channel, like the variances. But okay, I'm satisfied.
And also, it's hard to read. I know it's sort of an eye exam, but the dimension on the left side of that westerly finger, is that 41 or 47? I can't make it up.
41.6.
So a vessel couldn't extend more than 41.5 plus the beam,
Well, that's the full length, that's the full length.
and that doesn't, you'd have to even take off the, yeah.
You gotta take off like 7 feet, so it's 30.
It's, no, this looks only 30 some feet, really, right? So it'd be 30 some feet plus the beam, right? So
Yeah, you're
it really would, you know, I mean, it'd be challenging to get up.
Yes.
I agree. Okay. Any other comments? Questions?
I'm done.
So I'll take a shot at a motion finding this exempt from CEQA and move to adopt a resolution as set forth in the staff report, HC 2025-002, but to include the special conditions as also set forth in the staff report, and to specifically include the adjusted new 2,455 square foot drawing versus the 1818 that was shown, taking account for the fixed platform. That's a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Great.
We'll go ahead with roll call votes then. Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Secretary Scully,
Yes.
Chairman.
Aye. Yes.
Motion passes.
Moving right along. Item 7.1 is a general plan update. And this report outlines the city's update to its general plan. And just for the benefit of those that don't know, a general plan is a long-term document that acts as a guide for future development. And it's used as the foundation for decision-making on the physical development of a community. It contains goals that set values and direction, policies that guide decision-making, and programs to carry out the actions needed to achieve the goals. The general plan is required by state law and typically sets direction for the next 20 or 30 years. The city's general plan was last comprehensively updated in 2006, which is another 20 years ago. And I believe we have a staff report and a presentation.
Good evening, Chair Peer. Excuse me. Commissioners, Ben Zadiba, the city's planning manager. I don't typically present to you all, so I really appreciate you allowing me to do so. I know you have a packed agenda, so I'll try to keep this brief. And you already touched on a lot of it, and I just wanted to start by commending the Harbor Commission for forming an ad hoc committee already to review the general plan update. In fact, I've seen at least one or two of you at subcommittee meetings virtually, so just appreciate your participation. So just for the benefit of all commissioners and those in attendance, today I'm just going to provide a very brief overview of what a general plan is, where we are in the process, and sort of why we're here today. So by way of General Plan 101, these are just some statements you might hear from someone who knows something about the general plan. But overall, it's really just a vision, an aspirational vision for the future, and it provides a decision-making framework by way of goals and policies that help to inform future code updates to implement those goals and policies. So I'm not going to read all this, but again, basically, the general plan is an aspirational framework that looks long-term into the future. So, as I said to Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission last week, I'd say you all are pretty fortunate to have this coming before you, as it's a once-in-a-career project for us planners. And it's a 20 to 30-year document typically, and that's only if the city can afford to update it, because it is quite costly to do so. But basically, it looks at all the issues that affect the city. What does the city value? How do we provide goals and policies to support and uphold the city's values? One thing I like to mention on this slide is very early on in the process, when we were doing visioning with the community, there was some statement written about Newport Beach will become an excellent city in 2050, which is a horizon year for this project. It became very evident that Newport Beach is an excellent city today. So the idea is we want to maintain that level of excellence into the future without compromise. So the city's general plan was last updated in 2006. It has 10 elements, 7 of which require, or have topical areas rather required by state law. So I'm going to flash this here. So it's a little hard to see the contrast, but the purplish elements have components that cover state mandates, whereas the teal or turquoise elements are optional and unique to the city. The City Council did initiate a comprehensive review and potential update of the general plan in 2019. And I say that very purposely because there's a sentiment that the general plan is pretty good. It just needs a review and potential refresher and maybe a post-COVID world where a lot has changed. In 2020, the city staff pivoted at council direction to focus on housing, by way of the housing element, as well as the circulation element, to address a very high regional housing needs assessment allocation. Just for reference, the 5th cycle allocation to the city was 5 units, and the 6th cycle was nearly 1,000 times that, hence the need to focus on that component. So now that that effort with the housing element is largely complete, city staff started to pivot back to the more comprehensive update, really in 2022, with the council's formation of the General Plan Update Steering Committee. So the little diagram you see in front of you represents the elements that the city's general plan includes, with the elements that are not disappearing being the ones that are remaining for further committee review. As mentioned, council did appoint a Brown Act committee, that's the General Plan Update Steering Committee chaired by Nancy Gardner, along with 2 other members. I very purposely titled this Led by Community Members because the effort is largely a community member driven effort in that there are 2 committees formed, the second committee being the General Plan Advisory Committee, which has 24 members, and they've actually formed subcommittees to work on the various elements to make sure they're remaining productive. And as I mentioned, I've seen at least 1 or 2 commissioners at the Harbor Bay and Beaches subcommittee meetings, so I appreciate that. But these are all Brown Act meetings. They meet monthly on the first Wednesday as needed, and they do comprehensively work to review and evaluate the needed changes in the general plan. So the overall approach, we're in phase 2 of 4, and we're kind of at the tail end of phase 2. Phase 1 was really background analysis and visioning. So attachment B to your staff report this evening is the background conditions and existing conditions and background analysis report, which is prepared by the city's consultant, Dudek. And really that's a snapshot of what the city currently has in terms of the harbor and bay element, as well as any potential changes that need to be made for state law purposes, and just provides a good snapshot or a baseline to operate from. Phase 2 is the actual policy and goal development, which I'll just note the elements are really being refreshed for the most part. We're also looking to streamline and make them easier to get through for all users. So that's kind of a big directive here. And again, we're at the tail end of phase 2, moving into phase 3 and 4, with ultimate conclusion being probably first quarter of 2026 is our target of getting before council. As part of this effort, as I said, we've really reached out to the community. We have a website established for the project. And you'll see at the bottom left of this screen that we had a digital interactive map that allowed people to put pen drops on things that were important to them, things that were issues, or maybe areas for opportunities. We also went out to pop-up events where we went to already scheduled events and held little events with a booth that had engaging activities. Here was at the Environmental Nature Center at the bottom right, where we had people put what they valued in the city in a pot. So we took all that feedback, compiled into an outreach summary, and used it to inform the goals and policies that are informing or being refreshed in the update. Phase 2, we dove a little deeper, where we had actual ideas proposed to support each of the elements. And we held community workshops on each topic, and you'd be happy to know that the Land Use and Harbor and Bay workshop was the best attended workshop that we had. I just wanted to throw this in here as a shameless plug for those who want to get involved. We do have a project website. You can reach out to me. I'm a public servant. I am very responsive. I'm happy to help with any questions anyone has. So segueing into, again, why we're here today, and this is the last portion of my presentation. Really, there are several steps that have gone into the element development. As I stated, we started in 2023 with the existing conditions background analysis reports, which were reviewed by all the subcommittees. We had engagement, digital engagement, we shared draft goals, and we shared draft ideas to support the elements, ultimately culminating in the draft that you have before you today. And I just want to reiterate and emphasize that is a draft. It's going to remain a draft until council ultimately adopts it. So really, as we see it, we've been talking about this as the draft elements are conversation pieces, and we look to continue that conversation with the Harbor Commission and with the broader community to see if there are any changes that need to be made. Just kind of briefly highlighting the Harbor Bay and Beaches element. First of all, I think it's pretty cool that the Harbor and Bay Subcommittee chose to recommend a rebrand to include the beaches. It's such an important component of the city. The current general plan does not really do the beaches any justice, and they felt it does require some emphasis. So the beaches has been added to the namesake of the Harbor and Bay element, and the Upper Newport Bay has been better emphasized to really round out that element, to not just include harbor-centric policies and goals, but more bay and beaches goals as well, to really create a multifaceted, integrated approach to coastal access, as well as minimizing risk of displacement from coastal hazards, and then lastly, really emphasizing the harbor's economic strength and vitality moving forward. So today's recommendation is, there's no vote or action required other than to receive and file the draft element. And we're looking for you to provide any initial guidance or gut reactions on the draft that you have in your packet. Again, this is to remain a draft. Again, commend the commission for having an ad hoc committee already established. I will say that we would like to provide this draft element to the public for public review and comment. We're hoping to get, we haven't set a final date yet for when to have comments returned because we haven't started advertising the draft element yet. We wanted to come to you all first to make sure that you're comfortable with the element as it stands today. Once we send it out to the public and advertise it, we're likely looking to get all comments back by the end of October. So our goal would be that your ad hoc committee, or however you choose to work on comments, would be able to provide comments to the General Plan Advisory Committee by that time frame. Again, simultaneous with the public review, we would distinguish that the Harbor Commission has provided these comments. There's also an opportunity to have the ad hoc committee meet with the subcommittee from the GPAC if that was something that the commission would like to do. Ultimately, we're looking to do general plan update open houses in October and work with the various committees to refine the draft elements, coming back to you all again with a more refined, full, complete document for formal support to council, which again, we're seeking that in 2026, ideally the first quarter, at the latest by the middle of that year. That concludes my presentation. I did want to note that we have GPAC member Mosier in the audience. I want to just recognize that he is here, as well as the subcommittee chair, Curtis Black, is also here, and I think he'd like to make a few remarks if it was okay with the commission. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. Black.
Thank you, Ben. I think just a few notes supporting Ben, the work that you just presented. Obviously, we've been working on feedback around the general plan since middle of 2022, so it's been definitely a pretty comprehensive process. I know that y'all have been involved in many aspects of that process. We've seen a few of the commission members at our meetings and virtually and in person. I'm also on the Water Quality Coastal Tidelands Committee, and I think when we were looking at the draft that's being put in front of you today, all the feedback that has come in from the community has been built into that draft. But I know, our committee, we're gonna maybe similar to you, review it, provide feedback, comment, ultimately like our own kind of analysis on the document, and then I know that will hopefully go into a final, as Ben mentioned. Hopefully you can do the same. But wanted to first say thank you for your involvement. I think maybe more than other commissions, or maybe you've been, I guess, exemplary members of this process. So thanks for doing that, and looking forward to your feedback. Anything I missed, Ben? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. The plan is incredibly thorough and well thought out, and the public outreach you did is also really fantastic. I think referencing touching 45,000 residents is incredible. So I commend you all for that. And I'd like to bring it up here for some questions or comments, and I guess probably it'd be appropriate to look to the subcommittee member, ad hoc committee members first. Commissioner Yon, Secretary Scully, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to fire away.
I do. You know, it's been a little bit of a challenge for me to get up to speed on this. You know, it helped to attend some of those meetings to understand it, and I've gone through the packet, the information that you provided for our package today, and I do have some comments. I will bring them to the subcommittee, and you know, assuming I'm on the right track and you're okay with it, and it's in agreement with our subcommittee and the Harbor Commission, bring these comments to you in writing and for consideration in the Harbor Bay and Beach element. And I'm just going to go through a few of them if you don't mind. You know, under policy HBB 14, would be to consider adding a reference to modern mooring technology like helix anchors and mooring field optimization to provide safety and environmental impact and capacity. HBB 19, just maybe being more proactive to teach customers of rentals to, you know, how to safely operate within the harbor. HBB 4 was all about our open space initiative, but I don't know that that's not going to go anywhere. But it really went to it. HBB 6, maintenance and enhancement of deep water channels. We should include a long-term sediment management funding plan. I mean, it's so expensive on the dredging that thinking about funding it over the years versus how we're going to get it paid for when we need to do it. In HBB 6.3, HBB 7.1 was repeated and cited twice. I think there's some typos in that. In the economic value of Newport Harbor section, you know, the data's from 2018. Is there later data available? And should we say we're going to update that data as time goes on and that data comes available? HBB 8.7 was on liveaboard permits. They talked about a reasonable maximum number. You know, the way the city works with it today is a percentage of the moorings, and do we want to stick with that? Consider adding, on HBB 9, consider adding language about adopting technology for harbor management, smart buoys, online mooring rentals, vessel tracking to improve efficiency and user experience. That's in process today, and bringing, you know, adding technology to it, I think it would be a good thing. On HBB 10.5, expand on this commitment to funding and include the Harbor Department, code enforcement, and on-the-water fire suppression. Including those needs and those things that we have today, and improving upon those, I think would be very important in the long-term plan. HBB 11, expand wayfinding beyond signage to include digital tools like apps, QR codes, real-time maps for visitor navigation, and that is in effect today. And my last two comments would be, one, there's no mention in the element of the Harbor Department and the current role in managing the harbor through the coordinating of safety, providing on-water support, generating revenue for the Harbor Department budget and the Tidelands Fund. Including these functions would acknowledge the department's importance to the daily operations and the long-term sustainability of the harbor. And my final comment would be, the Orange County Sheriff's Harbor Patrol role is mentioned only indirectly through safety policies. We consider adding specific policy on collaboration between the city and the Sheriff's Department to ensure consistent, effective, well-coordinated law enforcement on the water. So those are some of my comments from reviewing it. And honestly, we as a Harbor Commission has been a little bit silent on this. I mean, we did help with the meeting at the Marina Park, and I think that went well. We got a lot of people to come out, and we will get little bit more proactive and written comments to the committee as it relates to what the feeling of the Harbor Commission is. Those conclude my comments.
Thank you very much, Secretary Scully. Commissioner Young, do you have anything to add? Commissioner Williams?
Nothing to add.
Commissioner Miller?
Nothing to add at this time.
Nothing as well from me. I'll open this to public comments at this time.
Chair Beard and members of the commission, as you know, my name is Jim Mosher, and as you heard and already know, I'm one of the 24 GPAC members, but I'm speaking as an individual, so these are my thoughts, not necessarily anybody else's. Although the element has evolved a little bit, one issue I think is before the GPAC that has not quite been resolved yet is whether there should be something in here to coordinate better the various oversight boards, commissions, and committees that we have in the city that have some jurisdiction or say or advise the council regarding things related to the harbor and the beaches. As you heard, there's 3 different bodies with overlapping responsibilities. There's you, the Harbor Commission, there's the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission, and as Kurt said, there's a Water Quality Committee whose name got added, Water Quality Coastal Tidelands Committee, and who should be paying attention to what, or whether they could be better coordinated to protect our city resources, which we hope to preserve over the next 25 years, seems to be an issue that possibly should be addressed in the general plan. And there's kind of fuzzy issues. I know you, for instance, impose in Title 17, make recommendations about storing boats on the beaches around the harbor, and yet in our city charter, the Parks, Beach, and Recreation Commission is supposed to advise the city council on all matters that have to do with beaches, but they're somehow out of the loop, not advising on that. And also we call our harbor a major recreational harbor, and so I'm not sure the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission is having clear input as to the recreational aspects of the harbor, things of that sort. So that's the one unresolved issue I know, whether that should be addressed in this element, and whether you have any ideas about that. And the second comment I wanted to make, I think when it came out, I told you about this much longer technical background report. And my understanding is when the element is adopted, you won't see it currently in the text, but apparently it's going to cross-reference or make notes to this technical background report as being the authoritative description of the harbor and beaches as they are today. And I would hope that you perhaps would take the time to look through this and see that it is indeed an accurate description. I just looked at kind of one page here about vessel launching, and I see there's a footnote about where hand-launched opportunities exist around the harbor, and it's based on a city document from March of 2001. So that was a 24-year-old report. Things like that may need to be updated, and you would be much better equipped than I am to notice the inaccuracies in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comments at this time? Okay, seeing none. This is a no action item, file only, so we will do that. And I encourage the ad hoc committee to reach out and meet as determined necessary. Thank you for your help with all this.
Mr. Chair, if I can just ask one clarifying follow-up question to Mr. Scully on his direction that he gave. I'd like to just make sure that it would be acceptable for city staff to share a draft out to the public simultaneous to getting the ad hoc committee's review and input with a big draft watermark, just to continue that conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely, no, keep the ball rolling.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you again. Moving on to the next item, 7.2, discussion of proposed revisions to Title 17, and included in the Harbor Commission's 2024 objectives is to conduct annual review of Title 17 and recommend updates to City Council where necessary. I think there's a short staff report, but if Harbor Master Blank prefers, we can go straight to Commissioner Yan, the chair of that subcommittee, to present the subcommittee updates.
By all means, please take away Commissioner Young.
As we know, the Title 17 update, we as a functional area for Harbor Commission, I've been heading, and in doing so, we've received a lot of input throughout the years with our Harbor Master and his staff. And we have collected certain items that are all coming to a head where we'd like to assemble not only the lists we have present, but the formation of an ad hoc committee to join me as I've been a committee of one. And so I've been, I want to solicit the commission to have 2 additional commissioners as part of the ad hoc, so we can then take the time to do the deep dive with Harbor Master and Deputy Harbor Master Cozyline on a laundry list of the items that he has presented. I don't really have the list I'm going to go through in detail tonight. I know there was a few items that Harbor Master shared with me, and I'd like him to actually opine if he'd like to bring some of those up tonight. I know that some of the information that you've sent me, including public safety on the docks, the Rhine Wharf usage, and many other items. If there anything you wanted to speak to tonight on any of those items you brought to my attention, I can't ask you for it. Otherwise, I could just have this be a session tonight for us to see 2 other Harbor Commissioners that would like to join me and have those meetings and follow up back to the Harbor Commission with our findings as a joint ad hoc committee. So I'm going to ask for volunteers.
Okay, I appreciate that. Before we get to the volunteers, I would like to give the commissioners the opportunity to ask any questions first.
Sure.
And then we'll address that.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Miller.
Title 17, a long document. Haven't digested it completely, but trying to divide it up, and I certainly think it's directionally in the right idea, but would be more than happy to get involved if you need assistance on it.
Yeah, well, that'd be great. I'd like to hear that. And just as another comment, as you know, we had an ad hoc committee in the revision of Title 17 with former Harbor Commissioners and Chair Kenny. It was a long haul, over a year and plus work effort, because the Harbor Department was newly established and needed a set of rules to run by. We gave it a good try the first round. We thought we captured a lot, but what you really learn in doing and carrying out the duties of the harbor, you see where the holes exist. And so over the time, this is a living document. So what you started reviewing is still going to live and evolve over time. And that's the purpose of our subcommittee, is to ensure that happens. So thank you.
No other questions from me.
Great. Thank you. Well, you've got 1 volunteer, so Secretary Scully, any comments?
Sure, Commissioner Yon, this ad hoc committee, how long do you expect it needs to be in place? And, you know, what are you looking at the timeline to tee these up and bring it, you know, make the cut before we go to the next generation, for lack of a better term?
What we'd like to do within the next 30 to 60 days is hold our meetings with the department, kind of rehash, go through the findings, vet them, bring them back to this commission. At that time, we would have an open discussion on those items for a recommendation of revisions, which I believe becomes a resolution from our commission and then forwarded to City Council. So 60 days maximum. We are in the summer months and the Harbor Department's very busy, but our time is to really do a deeper dive with them.
Okay. I mean, if you know, barring if another commissioner that's not here wants to do it, I'm more than willing to assist. And unless Vice Chair Marston or Sirchek or Williams would like to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Scully. Commissioner Williams.
No questions, but happy to throw my hat in the ring here to assist Commissioner Young.
Great. Thank you very much. So I would like to just confirm some guidance from our harbor master here. I believe we're able to hear without any agendizing to add subcommittee members, ad hoc members. We can do that, correct?
Please refer to them as subcommittee members because there is a subcommittee contained under your existing objectives. But you are correct. That no additional agenda item needs to be taken. Just toss in up to two additional names to serve on the existing subcommittee committees.
Got it, thank you. So I guess what we'll first do then is open up for public comments.
Leverage one more time. As Commissioner Miller noted, I think Title 17 is around 70 pages right now. I've read it numerous times and committed a lot to memory, but of course not all of it. Something I want to encourage, it says for this agenda item, the full commission will listen to and provide input on a proposal prepared by the subcommittee responsible for that objective. I don't need my flashbulb. So this references a proposal. This was first agendized a couple months ago, I believe, and Commissioner Yan was gone for one meeting, so here we are now. But I did a public records request. There is a proposal. It also includes an addendum and an addendum 002. I think those things should be associated with the agenda item on the city website, as we saw with the experts in the room, and there'd be more here, but I didn't widely distribute that. This is critically important to a lot of people, and you, at water quality, safety, all these concerns we share. There's some errors in the proposal I've seen that I think would escape somebody. I know licensed captains with liveaboard permits. They work and live on the harbor 24/7, 365. And were they able to see some of this information before we come here and discuss it? I think that could be incredibly helpful. So I encourage that level of transparency. Thanks, guys.
Additional public comments?
Good evening, Herman Coons. I just want to say that back in 2016, whenever you redid Title 17, it was very much open to the public. We had stakeholder meetings, and I commend it. It was very well listened to, and to the point we had a lot of give and take. And right there, they would write the comments about some changes that made sense after listening to the public. So I just encourage, since this sounds like a pretty big overhaul, maybe not as big, that maybe we could do something like that also, just so we have a little more clarity about what's actually being proposed to be changed. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional public comments? Seeing none, and just to comment, as Commissioner Yan mentioned, this is a long process. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight, so all those things will be carefully considered, and thank you for those comments. Now, getting back to adding some subcommittee members to this subcommittee. I guess at this point there are 3 that threw their hat in the ring.
3 for 2 spots.
We can also appoint, but being we have some volunteers. I guess I would normally leave it up to you, but maybe up to the commissioners volunteering, the three of you, including Commissioner Williams, Miller, and Secretary Scully.
Fine with holding back and let these guys go, or if one of them wants off, I'm fine staying on. So whatever works best.
So why don't we go with Commissioners Williams and Miller and join the subcommittee with Commissioner Young. Great.
Thank you.
And I will make a motion. Do I need to make a motion? It's just an appointment. So that's our action item. They're appointed. We're full. Great. Okay. So the next item, 7.3, was agendized for the purpose of creating and appointing members to a proposed ad hoc subcommittee that would review review current and recommend revised Harbor Commission objectives. There is a staff report by the Harbor Master. I wouldn't mind to go ahead if you like, feel free.
Sure, so this is actually going to be a new ad hoc subcommittee. Formal action needs to be taken, needs to be agendized, et cetera. You're welcome to talk amongst yourselves and then seek input from the public on who should serve on this new ad hoc subcommittee that will review existing Harbor Commission objectives and come back to this body with proposed new or revised objectives at future meetings.
Thank you. So with that, I know we have discussed this at 2 or 3 of the last 3 Harbor Commission meetings. So this would be good to get this done now, get a subcommittee in place and get these objectives back in front of the revised and recommended objectives back in front of this commission sometime in the next couple of months perhaps, with ongoing discussions at probably each subsequent Harbor Commission meeting. With that, I guess again, we're looking for volunteers to be on that subcommittee. I'll offer up myself as one and look to Secretary Scully.
Yeah, I've been doing this, we've been on the objectives quite a few times, so I have no problem doing that. And if I could ask our Mr. Blank, we've had trouble with these objectives sometimes. You know, they seem relative when you start them, and then you get 6-8 months down the road. In these objectives, would it be doable to have kind of a high level objective, and then as time goes on, create some action items underneath those objectives without having to go to City Council to get those approved? But as long as they're related to and trying to accomplish that objective, is that something that would work?
I believe so, yes, and I think it is in your best interest to, at a high level, share with the City Council what your objectives for the coming year or years might be. But the work plans within or beneath those objectives it is not necessary to update the City Council with the details of what those work plans are.
Okay. I'm just trying to think as we go through that. And 2, I just recommend that we don't say these are our objectives for 2025 and we get them approved by October or November. We'll keep them maybe not so much for the year, but the current objectives.
Yeah, to that point, over the last 8 years, I've been involved with this. The prior structure of how the objectives were laid out was very substantially similar to what you just described, and I think it worked very, very well, because then certain items can come on and can go off. They might be relevant at one time, not another. So, as part of that subcommittee, I'll be supporting that. Thank you. Anybody else, any other commissioners might want to participate in that subcommittee at this time?
If you need assistance, I'd be more than happy to volunteer myself.
Okay. We'll take that then, unless Commissioner Williams, are you desperately wanting to be on this committee?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. So we'll make a move to make a motion to approve a new subcommittee pursuant to item as described in 7.3. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
And it's exempt from CEQA. Any second?
Please include the names of the commissioners you are assigning.
That would be myself, Secretary Scully, and Commissioner Miller. And we have a motion on the floor.
Well, I don't know if I assume I can second that for myself. Yes, I'll second that motion.
Great. Let's go to vote.
We'll go ahead with the votes. Commissioner Miller?
Oh, hold on. Time out. Like to hear some public comments at this time?
Sorry, one more time. You've heard me on this particular subject a number of times. I encourage you to restore restrooms to the Harbor Commission objectives. Chair Beer mentioned at a recent meeting something about, not going to go there again. I think you're referring to maybe the idea of floating restrooms, but to completely strike restrooms I mean, we all want people not going in the water, you know, and it's gonna be a challenge to build restrooms on shore, but just to completely remove them from your objectives, given how much everybody I talk to wants cleaner water in the harbor, seems counterintuitive. So I ask that you not strike that restroom out from the next objectives. Thank you.
Additional public comments?
Mike Fleming, is it possible that there can be a representative of the public in your ad hoc groups? Just a non-commissioner that can be part of that? Is that something that can be done? Or is that by definition not done?
Well, this isn't a Q&A, just for the record, but appreciating your input. I know there are committees that can elect to have public participate in, but that isn't something that's been entertained thus far. I would defer clarity on that to our harbor master, who's probably more knowledgeable than me.
For the purposes of the structure, you're considering an ad hoc committee of the Harbor Commission. You cannot appoint members of the public, but when the when the ad hoc committee meets, they are welcome to publicize the dates and times, etc. And I'm glad to support publicizing the dates and times of those meetings, and they are welcome to invite the public. It is, however, within this structure, not a requirement to invite the public to that. So public participation is absolutely encouraged, but for the purposes of the efficiency of the ad hoc, it's not a requirement, and in this case, you can do it.
Understood, thank you. And you may have mentioned it, and if you didn't, it's not necessary, but if you did, can you repeat your name?
Mike,
Thank you, Mike. Additional public comments? Seeing none, now we can take that vote, and motion rather, and second by Commissioner Miller. And vote.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Yon,
Yes.
Secretary Scully,
Yes.
Chair Beer.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Now we do have some ad hoc committee updates. A few ad hoc committees have been established to address short-term projects, as I think everybody fully understands now, based on what we've seen here this evening. The general plan update is one of them. That's been thoroughly discussed. I don't think anything needs to be added to that. There is the Balboa Ferry Ad Hoc Committee, Commissioners Scully, Spurchuk, and Yon, and Secretary Scully or Commissioner Yon. Do you have any updates for us on that subject?
No, we had a pretty detailed update in the last Harbor Commission meeting. That process moves pretty slow, so I would say, probably another 60 days or something before we see any be able to provide some definitive new information.
Understood. Commissioner Yon, I assume you do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from Commissioners Miller?
None for me.
Commissioner Williams?
Nothing.
Okay, I'll ask the public for comments on this matter. Seeing none, no action to be taken, received and filed. We'll move on to item 7.5, which is the Harbor Commission objectives. And typically each committee studying their respective objective within the Commission's objectives will provide a progress update. Some of this is a little redundant based on this evening's meeting. The annual review of Title 17, Commissioner Yon, you've already done a great job updating us there. I know that Commissioner Scully, I think you mentioned updates on the Water Quality and Guidelines Committee. Do you have anything further to add to that?
Nothing for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Yon, anything on additional harbor services and so on?
Nothing.
Okay. Again, Commissioner Scully, anything on participation of businesses in the Harbor Department with the Safety Committee to promote best practices?
Nothing to for this objective at this time, but I will have something on this topic for later in the meeting on future agenda item topics.
Okay, and similarly on reviewing the harbor department responsibilities and readiness and effectiveness and so on. Again, I know you've addressed that previously. Anything to add?
No.
Okay. Nothing to add on any updates on the market rent to be charged for onshore and offshore moorings. I think that's at a state level at this time. And I think that's it on the objectives. Do I have any comments from commissioners with respect to any of those objectives?
None from me.
Commissioner Williams?
Not me. Oh, sorry.
None.
Okay, thank you. Public comments? Seeing none, proceed and file. And I believe now is time for the long-awaited harbor master update.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Paul Blake, your Harbor Master. It was a busy month in July. Here is a short report on the activities the Harbor Department engaged in. Some pretty pictures and a few words. The Harbor Department's mission, of course, is to keep the harbor clean, safe, and well enjoyed. In terms of keeping the harbor clean, the following activities bear note. There was a huge amount of trash accumulation on the public docks over the holiday weekend. It's being addressed with our service provider as well as my colleagues in water quality and refuse collection. There was a vessel in the A field that was observed to be taken on water and addressed. The vessel is currently safe and above water. And we had a big emphasis on early morning patrols focused around unpermitted liveaboards. And then based on a report from an observed mariner, a sea lion that had been tangled in some deterrence was freed. What you see in the images there, upper left, is the trash accumulation on the Balboa Marina public dock early Saturday morning on July 5th. That collection did not actually happen again until Monday after the holiday was over. On the right, you see more than 3 feet of standing water inside the vessel in the A field that was in danger it was in danger of sinking because it was taking on water. It was a collaborative effort between our dewatering pumps and the more professional service provider who was called to aid in that situation. In the middle on the left, you see that tangled sea lion who had gotten himself stuck within some sea lion deterrents. And on the lower right, you see Harbor Safety Officer Timmerman, who climbed aboard that Tiara powerboat to free sail the sea lion. He was very successful in that endeavor, and the sea lion swam away with great vigor, so did not appear to be injured in that particular situation. Over to keeping the harbor safe. Excessive speed and wake were addressed in several instances throughout the month. That is probably the biggest challenge we're having at present, and we will station Harbor Department team members, especially on busy weekends, in special or in locations that make sense, like near the harbor entrance, at the ferry, on the West Lido Reach, and in front of Marina Park in the future. We also rescued some tired paddleboarders and returned them to their point of embarkation. That is a nearly daily occurrence, but in this particular case, it was a special group. Branded life rings have been added to the patrol boats and just identify us better and our safety delivery capabilities. A suspected unpermitted charter with an excessive passenger count was addressed with some support from the U.S. Coast Guard. A very interesting situation on the Sunday of July 4th weekend. It's more adequately described in the staff report, but that particular instance led to some additional communication and some very effective enforcement activities in conjunction with the Coast Guard, who was very pleased and gratified to be included in our enforcement efforts, and we now have a stronger relationship with that enforcement division that's up in Long Beach. There's some additional reporting on that in the staff report and in a slide that will come momentarily. And that all stemmed from an anonymous tip that I received very early that Sunday morning. So it's now Sunday the 6th of July, and I was awoken by a text message from an anonymous texter shortly before 6 a.m. and led to more than 12-hour enforcement effort on my part with the collaboration and cooperation of my staff plus the Coast Guard. The importance and value of 4th Patrol Boat was clearly evidenced over the July 4th weekend. We were able to keep vessels within the boundaries of both public anchorages much more effectively this time than ever before because of the presence of that 4th Patrol Boat, and I'm pleased to share that with you all. And then at end of watch, while returning to Marina Park, once again, Harbor Safety Officer Timmerman became aware of a bonfire on the beach at Marina Park, parked his patrol boat and immediately went over to engage in a conversation, make contact with the person responsible for the bonfire and identify that was unpermitted and needed to be extinguished right away. The images you see on this page are of the two groups of paddleboarders two groups of paddleboarders among the several dozen that were rescued and returned to their point of embarkation after getting downwind and exhausting themselves. In the lower image, you see the new life rings, which are carried, the branded life rings, which are now carried on all of the patrol boats. To my knowledge, other than one test throw, they have not been deployed. In terms of keeping the harbor well enjoyed, a tender that was found adrift in one of the mooring fields was returned to the mooring permittee to which it belongs. The mayor for the day, Amelia, who was entertained in a series of events with other departments, got a special harbor department harbor tour with her family members. Santa Claus was actually spotted at Marina Park not once but twice during the month of July. He was in town on a special trip from the North Pole to film a 90-second promo spot for the Christmas boat parade. The harbor master was also invited to contribute to that video effort, and I don't know when it will ever be published or whether it will ever be published, but it was certainly amusing to have Santa Claus around during the summer sailing camps at Marina Park. The Marine Activities Permit Program was provided, information on that program was provided to the compliance officer from the United States Coast Guard that we worked with on the investigation related to an unpermitted charter. He specifically referred to our code, the code associated with the Marine Activities Program as the best he has seen nationwide, and this is a 17-year veteran of the Coast Guard. We were very gratified with that recognition, and we were happy to provide him all of the details, the code and background associated with that. So he is now making that the gold standard for application elsewhere in the U.S. And as I said in the staff report and to him directly, invitationism is absolutely the most sincere form of flattery, and we strongly encourage knowledge reuse. It is not considered plagiarism, it is considered knowledge reuse when our language is used in other municipalities. There was heavy use of the large vessel anchorage as well as the anchorage itself. In the month of July, you will see a graphic of that shortly. And the 89th flight of Newport took place not in the best of conditions, but with no major incidents and significant participation. The images you see there on the page, the upper image is Mayor for the Day Amelia and her family in front of the Pirate House, which is always a stop on the tour. You see Santa Claus there standing by the railing at Marina Park, and then 4 of the 30 Harbor 20s that took part in the 89th flight of Newport. Odds and ends, excuse me. Significant effort was required to respond to 3 recent claims made against the city and specifically the Harbor Department. It involved a lot of gathering of surveillance footage to provide to the investigator and ad insurer claims administrator that represents the city. It's all a benefit because it does save the city a lot of money, but the time necessary to respond to those claims is time that the harbor master was not otherwise providing services to the harbor community. And I just need to make you all aware of the significant effort required to address those claims. I believe that the city will prevail in all 3 of those claims, and no funds will be dispersed. But I am no longer involved, having contributed as far as I did. We were notified that the budget for the SAVE grant, that is the grant that allows us to destroy and remove, or destroy, abandoned and unwanted or even turned in vessels, that is state grant money. We have received $175,000 in the last two-year grant cycles because of our success in the utilization of those funds and the recognition from the state that we really do an effective job of making use of those funds. We applied for an upgrade to $250,000 or $250,000 for the next grant cycle, which will begin later this year. Unfortunately, the state notified us that the budget for that grant has been significantly cut. It is down to $1 million, and that no individual grant recipient will receive more than 10% of the grant funds. We, of course, hope that we will be a recipient of 10% of those funds, but there's no guarantee, and it'll all have to do with how many other agencies apply for those grants. But a significant cut in the funding for removal of abandoned and surrendered vessels. A big disappointment, but we'll do the best we can with what we have. We did terminate another mooring license agreement for non-payment, and you see the letter there. And the most amusing or interesting call of the month came from a mooring permittee calling our attention to a banner of a political nature on another moored vessel. Generally, such displays are considered free speech. In this particular case, while the banner is on the private property, which is the vessel, that vessel is occupying a public waterway. And the city attorney is helping with additional resource and research and case law on whether or not that banner, which includes a term some would find offensive or profane, whether or not that can stay. So at present, the banner is still evident, and we are not taking any action because in an abundance of caution, we feel it is protected free speech, but the city attorney may provide us with evidence at some point in the future that says because it is actually on a public waterway on tidelands, action can be taken. Additional odd end, comments have been made in public meetings about skills and experience the harbor master has. I clarify for you what the actual performance evaluation criteria is for the harbor master. The harbor master is in fact evaluated on the following skills: leadership and supervision of staff, fiscal responsibility with the taxpayers' funds, skills as a mariner and a waterman, specific public administration technical skills, attitude, productivity, and effective communications with staff and city leadership. You will note that public relations and marketing are not amongst those skills. And I just felt it important for you all to know about what I am, the criteria about which I am evaluated. A couple of other notes on this. You will note that support for this deliberative body is not included. I am not evaluated on my ability and the zeal with which and the effort with which I support this deliberative body and the actions and tasks that it goes about. Further, if there are concerns about my performance on any of this criteria, I strongly urge you or members of the public to reach out directly to me first and offer me the opportunity to address concerns associated with my performance on these 7 criteria. And if unsatisfied with improvement in the performance on these 7 criteria, I strongly encourage you or members of the public to reach directly out to the city manager. My favorite graphic shows the calls for service per month and the distribution of them throughout the harbor. Once again, we bested our own record, and there were nearly 2,700 calls for service addressed in the month of July, and I think the blue dots, or heat map as I like to call it, shows a pretty good distribution throughout the harbor of where those calls for service, the services were actually delivered in response to those calls for service. We had a little bit less utilization of the harbor amenity map in July. I can't really explain it other than a number of the signs that include the QR code that people use to go to that map were down while the public docks were being refurbished. So a number of those signs had to be removed, and the QR code was just not as readily obvious. We have in fact added that QR code to all of our patrol vessels. So if you see a patrol vessel going around the harbor, or if somebody encounters a patrol vessel and engages the harbor safety officer on board, if they have if they have a request about amenities around the harbor, like where public restrooms are, where the public docks are, where the fuel docks are, etc., they can snap a picture of the QR code that's now emblazoned on the patrol vessel. We hope that utilization of that amenity map goes up in the near future. In terms of issuing permits, this is our activity in 2025, and again shows a significant increase in the issuance and evaluation of harbor events permits and marine activity permit issuance. The Rhine Wharf permit, as you will see in the next graph, has gone significantly down, and that's mostly due to the boat show utilizing the dunes to launch their equipment and docks as opposed to Rhine Wharf. So we're significantly ahead in 2025 on issuance of harbor event permits and marine activities permits. We are tracking well below the Rhine Wharf permits that we issued last year. So that's 2025, that's 2024. And then lastly, that is how well utilized the public anchorages were. In the month of July, all of the blue circles show that there was just too many entries on the calendar to show in this particular format. I will point out that there was not a single day that the public anchorages were not occupied in the month of July. That's your report.
Thank you, Harbor Master Blank. Appreciate that. I will bring it up here for any questions and comments. Commissioner Miller.
None at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Yan.
Good work with keeping up with all the increased activity you're handling, and just kudos to you and your staff. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
Great job as always. No questions. Thanks.
Secretary Scully.
Just a couple things. One, we talked about it quite a bit in the last meeting, but this report in this period of time is really 4th of July, and I know that was a bubble going through the system. So, I mean, great job to you and the team of keeping all the pieces fitting together in the harbor and allowing everybody to have such a great holiday weekend and a good month in July. I really noticed the frequencies up in code enforcement, and I think that's great, staying on top of that stuff, and it looks like just increased activity throughout the harbor year over year. So that's just amazing. And then I don't know what's out there, but I know I've heard of some tools, but there's so much AI out there right now, and overlaying AI over your video there might be some tools out there that either today or in the near future that could really help the cut the time down to go through that, because I know exactly what you're talking about, and then hopefully something like that could come available to make that ability to retrieve it very quickly.
Absolutely. In the particular cases where I was doing a review of video surveillance in the past 60 days, first of all, it was just a learning curve for me. It's not an activity I engage in frequently. It is not an activity that is engaged in by any member of the Harbor Department frequently. So the tools themselves, how do you go back to December 3rd to look at video captured from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m.? Okay, so just the tools are challenging. And then once you actually get to the location on the video that you want to review, you have to look at it very carefully, and you're looking for specific activities that are alleged or that are described, but sort of different than what is captured on the video. And then once you figure out where in the videotape is the specific topic, the specific area of interest, now you have to download that. And there are restrictions on how much space on the server we can take up with video. And video takes a lot of room. Once you find a place that you can actually save it, then transferring it to a location where the investigator or the risk manager can actually access it, that's all a challenge as well, just based on the rules that IT puts in front of us.
Right.
Thanks for understanding.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just have one question, if you're able to share, regarding the mooring permit that was terminated. What field was that in, and what was the length of the mooring?
Please understand, it was not a mooring permit, it was a mooring license.
Ah.
It was a mooring license.
Gotcha.
Let me be
I'm
very
clear.
clear. Right there. It was a mooring license, not a mooring permit, that was terminated for non-payment. And it was in the J field.
Okay.
The length of the mooring, I think it was 40 foot. Are you agreeing with me, Sabrina? I'm sorry. Are you agreeing with me, Cynthia, that it was a 40-foot mooring in the J field?
Okay, well, that's good, because I think that's the longest waiting list, is 40 footers, so thank you for that update.
Yep.
And thank you for a great job as always. I will bring it to the public for any comments.
Adam Bluffers again, and I wonder, with the commission's approval, if the harbor master might clarify some things for me. How long is a SAVE grant cycle? And when you said 175K for each of the last two, was that 175K times 2? And then do you anticipate when you'll know how much we'll get for this next cycle? Thank you.
Would you like me to address those questions, sir?
If you wish, please proceed.
The SAVE grant cycles are all 2 years each. So we, over the course of the last 4 years, have been granted 175,000 times 2, which I believe is $350,000. So over the course of the last 4 years, we have been granted and made use of $350,000 worth of SAVE grant funds. There is a 10% match that the city needs to put in, so it also costs the city $35,000 over 4 years. We will know what the grant level is for the cycle in which we are currently in the application in October, and then, so Cynthia's correcting me because she's the one who actually files the application. So the application has been filed. We expect the awards to come out in October, November, and the grant cycle to be effective shortly after the first of the year. The current grant cycle that we're in ends September 30th, and we have $4,000 left in our $175,000 grant for this 2-year cycle. We have $4,000 left that we must spend or lose by September 30th, and I assure you, we will spend it.
Thank you. Are those funds typically used for abandoned craft or more for sort of Good Samaritan for people that need to get rid of their vessel and want help?
I'm going to give you a complicated answer because the answer is complicated. The answer is there are several people, it's about 50-50 abandoned versus surrendered. So there are Good Samaritans out there who are surrendering their vessels. There are less Good Samaritans who are abandoning their vessels. And we don't prioritize one over the other. It's just we deal with what we have and we deal with applying the funds as most effectively as we can. In the current grant cycle of 2 years, it's about 50-50 surrendered versus abandoned. The value to remove a vessel is a much more complicated and nuanced answer. Some of the surrendered vessels are very large and very expensive to deal with. Some of the abandoned vessels are smaller and less expensive to deal with. So it's not accurate to say the funds were utilized equally. The funds were used heavily in favor of those vessels that were surrendered, but only because of their size and complexity of removal, not because there was a preference.
Great explanation. So if our funding was cut in half, it's reasonable that the abandoned vessels could at least be addressed, most likely, but we might not be able to accommodate as many of the Good Samaritans.
Correct, and it's likely that we would advise people interested in surrendering their vessels that we would not be able to deal with them, and that we would recommend them directly. We can recommend to them the people that do that work for us, and they can make arrangements to have their vessels surrendered directly to the destruction and removal folks and pay for it themselves.
Thank you. Additional public comments?
Mike Fleming, awesome job with new docks. That was really nice. Everything's kind of on the same line. Nice cleats. That was awesome. We could use about 2 more of those. Is there any way we can put more public docks in? Because if you look at the number of requests for services and the little yellow things that we get on our dinghy every single day, those are people that are not violating anything. Those are people that are using the dock and getting out of there in time, if possible. But that's how much activity there is on those docks. That's a lot of activity. And, you know, what happens now is that we got half a dozen guys that are uber Hoover deckers. You call them up, they give you a ride to the dock. Call them up, they give you a ride back out to your boat. And I don't know if that's the solution, if you're okay with it, there, you know. That's what's happening right now. I don't know if that's the best way to do it.
Thank you. I can address a little bit. It's challenging to add public dock space in this harbor. I was part of a subcommittee, I don't know, I guess starting 5 years ago. It took a couple of years. With Chris Miller, who's out here right now, we looked at every public dock in the harbor, and we went through a very long process to figure out ways to reconfigure those docks and add square footage where additional vessels could tie to. We came up with some pretty good ideas, but I think by the time it got to coastal, or we got shut down, and a bunch of it, maybe a little bit of it got through. And as part of our subcommittee, there's an element in there about harbor assets, amenities, and things like that, and that is something that's looked at fairly regularly, so thank you.
Yeah, I suggested this once before, but in front of the swimming beaches, we have the lines that keep people from getting into the swimming areas, the little buoyed lines. Just outside of them would be a great place for a dock. Is it, I mean, you shake your head, is there?
It's a challenge to add square footage over the harbor. There's just a lot of environmental considerations and permitting and red tape and cost, and it's a substantial process with no assurance. You know, if you remember the dock reconfiguration you just looked at in the public hearing earlier, there was 100 square feet of dock that was reduced, and I, you know, without speaking to the pier builders and designers, I can assure you that is so that they can go to the Coastal Commission and say, it's better for the eelgrass.
Right.
We're reducing. So to add is definitely a challenge, not impossible, but it's always looked at. We definitely recognize that problem. Thank you. Any other public comments?
My name is Peter Chas. I have a question. If I want to provide volunteer rights for the nonprofit or for disabled kids, can I use the marina, or is there anything provided for this kind of services, volunteer services? Thank you.
Again, this isn't a Q&A, but I don't really mind. Paul, if you want to address that, yeah, it's not really under our purview here.
No, but the city does have facilities that support transfer of people with mobility issues off the dock at Marina Park and into vessels, and that is available, and it's at no cost. We are not permitted to offer slips for free or extended tie-ups or variances from the conditions of use for any of the public docks or Marina Park, et cetera. So we can't offer free slips, but we can make the human lift available both at Marina Park and at the Balboa Marina Public Dock. 24 hours notice is required.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to motions for reconsideration. A motion to reconsider any action taken by the Harbor Commission must be made at the same or the subsequent meeting at which the action was taken, and may only be made by one of the Harbor Commission members who voted with the prevailing side. Are there any motions for reconsideration this evening by any commissioners? Hearing none, move on. Any matters which commissioners would like placed on a future agenda for discussion, action, or report? Any commissioners have anything they'd like to add? Feel free to chime in.
I do.
Yes.
First of all, she did commit to making a presentation at our next meeting, Paul, Ann Stanton with the Newport Mooring Association, to give a presentation in September. I'll confirm that and verify it with you, but looking forward to that. And I'd also like to just throw a discussion item on an agenda for, we can do it in the right, a meeting that you have room, Chair Bear, but I'd like to propose a discussion on appropriate safety training requirements for on-the-water harbor rentals. Just have the Harbor Commission discuss and consider what level and type of safety training should be considered or required for individuals running electric boats, motorized vessels, paddle boards, kayaks, jet skis, and other watercraft within the harbor. Currently, all other motorized operators on the water are legally required to possess a California Motor Safety Card This discussion should assess whether rental operations should meet similar safety standards, identify potential safety gaps, and explore options to ensure renters receive adequate instruction to operate safely and responsibly in the harbor. So when we have room on the agenda, it might be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, I agree, and maybe we'll look at that as the agenda comes close in subsequent meetings with Paul and find an appropriate time to put that on there. If, even September or October, whatever works out. Thank you. Any public announcements that commissioners would like to share? Seeing none, the date and time for the next meeting is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025 at 5 p.m. right here. I want to thank everybody for attending. We're adjourned.
Thank you.